Thanks for tuning in. This is Bergens talking about 10 reasons I'm interested in Cyberpunk 2077. Now, there are a lot of videos out there about all the awesome features and everything that the game has, but here are the reasons that I'm personally interested in keeping an eye out for the game. The reasons I'm going to list off are not in any specific order, except for the last one, of course, because that is the biggest reason and my favorite one. And number 10 is customization. When it comes to customization, these are the 4 different sections that I'm really looking forward to. Appearance, vehicles, weapons, cyberware. I like that Cyberpunk has its own unique names for the different styles and appearances. There's kitsch, entropism, neo-militarism, and neo-kitsch. The kitsch style is all about style over substance, which basically means that if something looks good, that's something that you gotta have or use. It doesn't matter whether that thing is tangible or practical or has any kind of use. As long as it looks good, it's flashy, it's fancy, and that's what kitsch basically is. It reminds me of what people used to refer to as chic in the past, which nowadays is referred to as Gucci. When it comes to customizing vehicles, you won't be able to customize the outer appearance of the vehicle, but you will be able to customize the performance and mods potentially. Additionally, you will find a lot of different variations of each vehicle out in the world, depending on where you find it and what the environment is. For example, if you buy a vehicle from the dealership, it'll be nice and brand new as it's supposed to be. Whereas if you find something out in the wastelands, then it would be bigger, bulkier, and have more modifications done to it. Customizing weapons is a whole different story. In fact, I'm just going to play you a little excerpt from the second Night City Wire video.
Absolutely. We have melee weapons, we have ranged weapons, we have cyberware, we have offensive cyberware, defensive cyberware, armor. We could talk for hours and hours about this stuff.
In short, there are 2 main methods of customizing weapons. The first one is adding attachments, like a scope, a silencer, a grip, etc., which affects the stats. And the second method is adding software, which are basically little chips that also affect the stats. And of course, you could change the different types of ammo. The last bit of customization I'd like to talk about is cyberware. You could literally customize everything from your hair, skin, eyes, body parts, and cyber weapons. This next bit of information I learned from Cyberpunk 2020, the tabletop role-playing game, the pen and paper game. You could even have your skin or body parts project video, or even change color, like having LEDs in your hair, your body, your eyes, etc. It's just amazing what you can do with cyberware. So not to get too far into it, this is one of the things I'm really looking forward to and excited about. Moving on to number 9, lore. Cyberpunk 2077 is very rich in lore because it is based off of Mike Pondsmith's tabletop role-playing pen and paper game that was initially introduced in 1988. Because the development of the game by CD Projekt Red has stayed true as much as they possibly could to the original content, and that the original creator Mike Pondsmith is actually overlooking the development of the game, it will be very rich in lore, and it has a lot to go off of. In fact, there's so much lore that there's a lot that is being actually taken out and somewhat changed just to suit the video game world. Number 8, relationships. Now, what I mean by that is the fact that because the game is, as I had mentioned earlier, based off of the tabletop role-playing game, there's a lot of role-playing. So when you play the game as a tabletop role-playing game with others, you're doing a lot of RPing, you're talking to your party members or friends that you're playing with at the time, and there's a lot of dialogue, and that creates bonds and relationships. In fact, in some situations where your character could potentially die in the game, but you would still risk your character's life just to go save a friend because of the strong relationship you have, or vice versa. The outcome of these kinds of situations is really based on your relationship with that character or their relationship with you, and your decisions because of that relationship, whether it matters to you or not. Which also brings me to the romances that you can have in the game. Those may be greatly affected by your choices in the game, and the things you do, or how you approach such things like quests. The 7th reason I'm interested in the game is exploration. And it's threefold. First, the map size. Despite the square footage or square meters of the map being a lot smaller than other games such as Grand Theft Auto 5 or even The Witcher 3, there's a lot of verticality and density. And I would love to go to the nitty-gritty parts of the city and explore all the different places you could go to, different buildings, structures, shops, and pieces you could meet, and encounters you could face. The second part of this exploration is that there is no loading screens, and that is just mind-blowing. I realize that there's a lot of effort put towards making that happen, and one of the recommendations is that you have an SSD for your computer in order to load in data as you're streaming it, as you're playing it, basically. It's data streaming, which is great. It's a great feat of engineering, and that kind of thing allows for better immersion, as opposed to having your gameplay and experience interrupted every once in a while, just to sit there and watch some kind of screen or hints while you're loading the next part of the game. Number 6 of things that I'm interested in is life paths. I really want to see how this plays out and how the developers made it so that depending on what life path you choose, you would have different experiences. This allows for a lot of replayability. Plus, I read somewhere that the developers and quest designers actually made it so that you could approach each quest up to 7 different ways. That's just amazing. One more thing is that in the tabletop role-playing game, your life path actually depicts your background, in which depicts what kinds of people you know, what information you have, and what abilities you get. And by abilities, I mean whether you're capable of doing certain things or not because of your experience and life path. At number 5 is replayability. As mentioned previously with life paths, you can play the game in different ways, and that gives replayability. But the reason I put this as a different point is because there are 3 things here: a cutscene system, real-time choices, and continued support by the developers in terms of free DLCs and hopefully in the future a paid expansion. What I specifically mean by the cutscene system is that I read that the developers made it so that you don't have to feel like you're being removed from the scenario or event that's happening. You're still in control of your character, you can still look around freely, and an event happens. Maybe an NPC points somewhere for you to look, or maybe another NPC talks to you, and your character would gradually look towards that NPC, and you could choose to move your mouse and look around as well. So you're still interacting with the game, and at the same time it is actually a cutscene that's happening in the game engine during gameplay. That is directly related to your real-time choices, because yes, there are dialogue options, but there are also choices where you could choose to just sit there, do nothing, not answer, and an event would occur because you didn't answer, or you could just aim your weapon and shoot at an NPC and completely change how that encounter goes. And this allows for a lot of replayability because of the real-time choices. You could literally change the path of your character's life, basically, at every moment, depending on what you choose to do. At number 4 is quests and missions. Basically what I mean by this is that I'm interested in how you could approach quests, because as I had mentioned earlier, the developers made it so that you could approach a quest up to 7 different ways for each quest, I believe. Not only that, but you're also not restricted to completing the main quests of the game only. You are completely free to enjoy the open world and do side missions all you want until the end of the game, and it is said that you can actually complete the game just by doing side missions. Now, I don't know how that works exactly, whether you'll miss out on all the main quest content or not, but I just believe that's a really good feature, that there's a lot of open freedom for you to just explore and play the game as you want. And number 3 is loot and gear. I'm really interested in how the gear that you acquire will change your stats and improve your gameplay. I also wonder what items or what situations drop loot for you that you could pick up and you basically benefit from. I also read that despite the different appearances and all the different customization of gear, your stats will still be beneficial, and then you could customize that item to look the way you want it, and that it won't just be some very poor looking, bad, horrible item that you're wearing just for the stats. For number 2, I'm looking forward to trying out Braindance. Even though this kind of idea was applied in different games, for example Fallout 4, where you basically go into a dream sequence, or in other games that are more fantasy, medieval games that you take some kind of medicine or something and then go into some kind of hallucination, the fact that this is implemented in a game world that has technology in the future, it is so much more interactive and intuitive, in which you could actually rewind time and look at specific things while speaking to somebody that's not in the brain dance. Therefore, you're interacting with somebody and you're still aware of what's going on around you. And the most important reason that I'm definitely interested in Cyberpunk 2077 is roleplay immersion. I haven't been able to play a video game in so long that was so immersive. It basically made you forget about the world around you. It's not because I didn't have the time to play games, more around the fact that I wasn't able to find a video game that gave me that kind of experience. That's the kind of thing I really am looking forward to feeling and experiencing in this game, hopefully that it could deliver on this. I have high hopes that this game could deliver because I've played the role-playing tabletop RPG Cyberpunk 2020, and other tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons. I've actually been playing D&D for years, and I definitely enjoy playing D&D with friends, sitting together, just role-playing and immersing ourselves in the game world, having fun, having a laugh, doing things that we did not expect to do in the game based on the encounters that we face as we're playing, and just coming out of it, having a laugh, feeling happy, and feeling good about the time you spent together with friends. And that's the kind of feeling I hope to get from Cyberpunk 2077. It is mainly the biggest reason I'm looking forward to this game. That's basically why I'm mainly interested in this game, and all the other reasons I had just mentioned previously. I hope you guys find these points interesting as well. Please leave your feedback, let me know what you think. Thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, thumbs down if you didn't, comment, and subscribe.